After filming the examples of the limited palette last week, I decided to go ahead and paint some additional pictures using that same flower image that I did, just to show you how versatile that small little palette is. I hope you enjoy today's video and give it a try. Please let me know if you try this, or post comments down below and let me know what works out for you. If what something's frustrates you, if I can show you something else. And you know, these are pretty cool. All three of these that was the first one I did last week. Then I painted this one, and this was the last one. This one has no pen. These will have pins, so you'll see the details of how to in the video. I hope you enjoy it. And if you weren't here last week, please look up here, and I'll try to put the link here so that you can go back and check it out. I'm going to be traveling, so I hope I will be able to post in 2 weeks. If not, I'll be back soon. So thank you for joining me. So I'm going to create this loose background. I'm just going to lay in some yellow, not pre-drawing anything. I like the warmth that has, and I know yellow and blue make green, and oh my goodness, some of that's going to mix, but that's okay. Grab some blue. I'm going to lay in some areas for the flowers. There'll be some flowers up here, right in here. It gets darker, so I'm going to pick up some of that burnt sienna to darken that blue, and I'm going to put that in where the shadows may be. There's some kind of under here, and I'll let some of that blue run a little bit. I do want to make some green, so I just make quite a bit of green, but it's kind of light. So I just add some blue to it, make it a little darker. So there's a shadow on this leaf here. There's some green dark under there. There's some green right over in here. Wipe my brush, add yellow, and then I'm going to extend that leaf. I'm going to just add it, and let it touch where it was wet, and blur out the darker parts. Haven't even put the base in yet, so I'll go pick up a little bit of the color that's up here and kind of sketch it in. And we have some stems in there, different shadows and colors up under there. I'm not going to worry about the stripe on the table. I'm not, that is not important. And this is just a quick sketch, but I do want the shadow back behind. I think that's important, and it kind of has a green cast to it, so I'm going to just let that kind of trail off, come up under here. I was able to control that line because that background color that I laid in to start with is dry. I usually kind of paint to the edge and stop. I do want to bring this yellow up front, and I kind of like that. So I'm going to come back now that some of that blue is probably getting a little dry, and I'm going to add a little more definition to it. Cutting up where the shadows are, leaving some openings. There's a little bit over here that's a little darker. Try to, as though you're painting the negative space around the petals. Just look for where it's dark. I'm laying in the dark. And there's even some dark over here. This leaf is actually darker, so I can just paint on top because watercolors are transparent. That's a leaf underneath the leaf. And you don't have to be very specific, but again, I only have 4 colors on my palette, but I'm just seeing what I can do with that. I could leave it there. I wouldn't even have to finish it. Sometimes I overwork things. That never happens to y'all, right? Yeah, I think I already said that once. Oops. I just want to lift that up. I just want to indicate the edge of that. Make it kind of a lost edge. I want it to balance the other side. And I'm going to let some of that blue trail off the page. I want to make sure there's enough weight in the shadow. The shadow directly under the vase is usually a little darker than what's further away. Okay. I just did this one a minute ago. Again, I haven't added any pen, anything else to it. They still have a total different feel, but it's a vase of flowers. And that might be all you want. You might not want any more than that. All right, let's try it again. Let's see what else we can do. This time I'm going to mix, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. Let's see. Okay, I need a little space on my palette, so I'm going to clean some of that off. This time I want to have some violet, some blue and red to help create the other color that I'm seeing in my flowers. Let's wet that a little bit more. Now we can add blue to that. That can be even darker. This could be a little lighter. I can mix it here, or I can let it mix. Watercolor is really pretty when you allow it to mix on the paper itself. See this? That's a little more interesting to me. Ooh, that's a little too bloody. Sorry, sounds gross. I'll just add more blue. Add, just kind of let it do its thing. Let me add water to that so it's not quite so vibrant. Let it mix on the paper. Still had a little too much. Pick up some green. Can just draw that leaf in. Another leaf here. That's too pink. Lift up some of that. Very abstract at this point. I can just drag the vase. See how when I just make things wet, the paint goes into the water. That's a little too heavy, so I'm going to just lift that off. Adding more dark, because watercolor dries much lighter. It's really dark in there. And just cut in here. Cutting in under here, let's kind of give it some definition of type of flower. I think that shadow needs to be darker to balance off the painting. Well, let's clean off the brush a little better now. Probably overworking it a little bit. Still want to make some of this darker, and I'm not letting it really dry very well in between. Let's add a little more green. I don't have any green down in the water, and I should. I'm gonna have some stems coming in. This one will kind of show up as glass. I don't really like that line. I'm going to take it out. You don't want to scrub. You don't want to scrub too much. Absolutely not. I'm lifting very carefully. And I think I'll let that shadow go all the way off, because I haven't put in a background, so we'll just see what that does. I don't see green over here, but I feel like I need some. And I feel like there needs to be something down here, so it's not just floating in the air. Can't put a line here. Well, it's got to come up a little higher, because if the shadow goes that far, the table can't end here. Let's create a little green down here to kind of balance the color, add harmony to the painting. It's very loose, but again, what? I did these 3 with this little palette, and I'm going to let them dry and add pen, and then you can decide if you like the pen or not. But it's just kind of fun to play with, and I think that's what you should be doing, is having fun. When a sketch is dry, I look at it and go, do I want any more definition? I might. This is a 005 Pentel, and I'm going to just create little wiggles of line to create the little bit more definition of the flowers. I know these flowers have 4 petals per flower, and you don't want them all going the same direction. You don't even have to count to 4, but I'm just adding in just a little bit of suggestion like this is a leaf, so I want to create it a little more shape of a leaf. That one is too. Just a little bit of line will give you that. And it's really fun to see, well, what will just a little bit of line do? Can I add just enough to fill in the blanks? Or do I even need to fill in the blanks? You don't want to add too much, and you don't need to outline everything. And some things I outline, I'm not even trying to stay in the lines. If you'll see that I've added some lines where there isn't any paint, and that's okay too. So I might want to create leaves, make these leaves down here to balance out the composition, and just do a few more squiggles. And I might call that finished. You might not call it finished, but I think that's fine. There is a looseness to it that I really like. Okay, next one. That one's still wet, so this was the second one that I did. I'm going to use a heavier pen this time just to show you the difference. Most of the time, I use the little small one, and you can use a variety of pens. I just find the fact that I like how how quickly I can lay in sketching even before I paint with this one. I should have done that with one of these, but just again create the leaves that you want. Outline whatever lines you want. You can create shapes to tell the story, or not. I'm kind of getting a little carried away with this, but that's okay. Yeah, this one was a little more blurred. As long as you have a few that are shaped similar to what you want, you can kind of just fill in the rest with a line here or there. And sometimes you're not sure where to go. So, is that enough? Is that too much? Do I add veins to my leaves? Do I add any shadows, squiggles to my base, to the shadow? Is that enough? Too much? Don't know. I'm going to add a little bit of white too. The white I like is it can come in and fill in, lighten up an area. Say I want this a little lighter in here. I can lighten it with a pen and then blur it with my finger. Say if I want a little highlight on one over here, I do the same thing. It's a lot easier than trying to paint around or add. I don't use the, what was it called? The masking fluid. I don't use the masking fluid when I'm working with journaling because it just takes too long. And what if I decided, this needs to be a little taller? Well, you can always add after you painted. Let's just see what that would do. I just want a little more blue, and I can even paint around what I've added in between, because that pen, even though it doesn't advertise that it's waterproof, I have not had any trouble with it bleeding after it's dry. So I think that needed a little more height. Down here, I can paint behind some of these, in between, around, fill in, layer some of this, the green here where it would have been in shadows underneath the flowers. That actually would be a little darker back in here too. But I mean, it's fun. Like I said, I say that a lot, but it is to me. And I might want to make this more purple over here to create a little more depth in the darkness. And I can do that even after the first is dry, because most watercolor is layered to get the feeling of, to get your colors. So even though, add the red on top of the blue, gives it more of a purple tone. You can go behind some of the drawing that you did to push some of those pieces forward. I don't like this down here, so I'm going to lift some of that up. So I'm going to take blue and paint a little bit in between. All right. I'm liking that. It has a nice variety. Now, when I step back and look at it, it's really dark over here, but I just added some more dark. So I might see it in the picture, and it doesn't have to be like the picture. You can see that there are a few petals that are lighter. So with this brush, because there's water in the brush, you can wipe lightly and lift up. Wipe lightly, lift up. You do not want to scrub your paper. So just removing a little bit, subtractive method, if you want to call it that. That's what I call it when I oil paint. Whenever I'm lifting off the paint, then you're subtracting the paint. So I don't want it all to look alike, but that helped a little bit. And there, and I think I need a little bit off this top one here, just because it was the same color as the one behind it. Or I could have made that part right there darker, which I still might do. Why not? make something darker behind it, it pushes the other forward. Okay, I'm going to make this shadow a little darker. Whoops. All right. All right, now I don't like that. I'm going to blur that out. It's too much of a line. I'm going to add yellow right here, make that brighter. Warm colors advance, cool colors recede. If you want something to move forward, warm it up, make it more intense. I like that better. Now, do you feel like there should be a leaf over here? Or is that my brain trying to balance things? I'm going to put a little one. See, artists can add to, subtract. Ta-da. Let's make it more of a point. Bring that in just a touch. Okay. I don't know if I like that or not, but that's okay. I think I want to lift, yeah. I didn't like it coming right to the edge of that flower. So I'm just going to push some of that paint over. Very gently. Very gently. See how waterproof, how that line stays? It's really like that. All right. Again, limited palette, limited supplies, 2 colors, whatever color I wanted, I think is how I use that one. I use reds and blues to make the violets and yellows to create more depth in the leaves. And I could come back and I can add to that if I wanted to, but just playing with it. So limited palette, whether you add pen, use subtractive method, add white to lighten, paint around it, a lot of options. If there's anything today that was helpful, you learned anything, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't had a chance, and if what I do is helpful to you. So I will see you next week. Thank you.